Pasha, Nuwajo, Koniwala, Nuwasuma Waheda.
Okay, Daily Times of Nigeria was put up for sale in 2003 through a public offer. Okay, and that public offer did not succeed, and the government wanted to now do what you call core investor sale. Now, in core investor sale, what it means is that anybody that buys it will take it over and manage it. Okay, so as at 2005, Folio was well capitalized, and Folio had all the documents that is needed to qualify. It was a very long process.
And who's Folio?
Folio is Fidelis Anosike, 75%, 15% Noel Anosike, and some other minority shareholders.
Okay.
So it's primarily a company that I founded when I left school. Okay? Just to give you a little bit background of myself. Okay, I'm a graphic artist by profession. I'm not a businessman. I always tell people that I'm not a businessman. Okay, I graduated from University of Benin, and
what year?
I graduated in the year 1989. So since I left school, my first job was a greeting card bid for Central Bank of Nigeria, which I won. And they paid me 14,500 naira. That was a big deal at that time. And then I could afford to set up an office, and I started doing bids for all these other companies. And I was winning a series of bids, you know, because you know how the creativity world works. You put in the bid, they don't know you, they select your bid, and they bring you up, and then they pay you. So it's not something that you have to know anybody, because it's like for Central Bank, they present the bid to the Board of Governors. And once they select your bid, you're up for the money. So we had all the papers in 2013, 2014. So we entered. It's a very long process. Privatization is a very long process. From the expression of interest to the EOI stage, then you get to the pre-qualification stage, then you get to the technical stage, and then before you talk about the financial stage. But because sometimes people don't understand privatization very well, they focus on the financial stage. You know, there are 4 other stages before you get to the financial stage, because the financial stage is like a bid. It's like winner takes all. It's like a zero-sum game. But you have to be qualified to get to that bid. On the technical bid of Daily Times, Folio was number 1. Folio got 82%. The next group, which was backed by the big guys of Nigeria and then even the management buyout, had 71%. The records are there. So we put up a bid primarily because I'm a graphic artist. I've been involved in printing all my life. I've also been involved in setting up community newspapers and then working to set up one of the major Nigerian newspapers of to date. So I had the prerequisite knowledge of how to put a proper technical bid. And we won that bid, fair and square. So when it came to the finance, once you are able to win a bid properly, then the premium that you place on the bid is a different thing altogether when it comes to financial bid strategy. And for us, when we won the bid, you go to the banks. You don't have to primarily have the money to buy the asset.
You have money at that point to have paid for the bid you won?
No, I didn't have to have the money.
Okay.
Because the law requires that I can do leverage buyout. I can pay for it myself, I can find investors, or I can borrow the money. Okay, but the most important thing in a bid is what you call the bid bond. The bid bond means that if you say you're going to buy X, 1 billion, okay, there is a set bid bond that everybody puts in place, which for Daily Times at that point was $1 million, was 150 million naira, so to speak. Now, that bid bond is meant to be financed by equity. It's meant to be financed yourself. So what it means is that if you come up and throw up a number in the financial bid opening and say you're going to pay XYZ billion and you don't pay, you lose that money. So in every bid, be it in Nigeria, be it everywhere in the world, that is the money that is expected to be covered by equity. So I had that money. I put it in place. Well, not one set was borrowed. And to remind you, Folio Communication was not Folio Consortium. Folio Communication bought Daily Times, not Folio Consortium. It wasn't there seemed to be a lot of confusion, not as if we brought a lot of people and then went to buy it. No, it's a singular company bid, and it was a singular company financed bid bond, and then we won the bid. So when we won the bid, we approached our bankers, and our banks were able to put down the money and then pay for it.
Koniwala, ni wọ́n súnmọ́ wọ ẹ̀dá.
We bought Daily Times for 1,250 million. 1,250 million.
Okay.
Yeah. When you say controversy, I always tell people, when we bought Daily Times was valued at, using all the methods, Daily Times was valued at less than 350 million naira. It had 2.1 billion in assets, and it had 1.9 billion in liabilities. Daily Times had 500 cases. That means it had 500 contingent liabilities. As at the time we bought Daily Times, only 7 of the assets were left in Daily Times. The balance sheet was restructured by BPE with almost all other assets.
But this is, so let me get you right. By the time you bought Daily Times, didn't Daily Times still have, didn't the company still have, has in London?
What is the house in London? What is the house in London? It had a house in Cold Harbour Lane, which was like a flat, which at that point was valued at £150,000. The records are there. Okay? So the basic thing is that when you...
And the property it has in the Keja.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. The total asset value, is 2.1 billion. The records are there. I mean, these are information memorandum that is open. It's not my document. It's government document. And then he also had recognized 1.9 billion in liabilities. I'm talking about hardcore liabilities. I'm not even talking about trade liabilities. He had 500 cases, which, because it's a newspaper company, okay, the liability cases. And then the way you amortize that is that you look at it and you say, okay, fine. What is the chances of these cases succeeding? And you take an average, and then that becomes a contingent liability. So, just like I pointed out when we started, when Daily Times was put on sale via, the shares was put on sale in 2003 via public offer, it would have cost me 399 million to acquire the whole shares of Daily Times. It was on record. The offer failed.
Why didn't you do that?
The offer failed. Because
Why did it fail?
the offer failed. It wasn't me. I wasn't involved in that. Okay, it was done via because Daily Times is a public liability company, it was done via the stock exchange. So after that failed, then the government now said they wanted to go the way of core investor sale, which is where people like us now participate.
Koniwala, ni wọ́n súnmọ́ wọ ẹ̀dá.
Okay, I tell you what the controversy was. Okay, the controversy was largely when I wanted to pay for the bid, I felt that I needed to get some partners in instead of borrowing 1.25 billion, all the money. Okay, one of the clauses in the agreement says that I have to sell 40% by deferred offer within 5 years of acquisition. I don't know if you're following me. Okay. So what it meant is that instead of holding on to all the shares, because remember that Daily Times was quoted on the Nigerian Stock Exchange at that time. So what it meant was that we were on technical suspension. So I said, why do I have to borrow all this money? The banks don't lend development finance. They're going to give you a short period of time. So I rallied around and looked for people that are interested in participating in terms of equity. And I got 2 friends of mine, and they put together 500 million. So at the end of the day, I borrowed only 750 million. And then with the 500 million, I was able to pay the bid price. The agreement with them was very simple. You guys are going to come in, and we apply to BPE, we'll get the approval, and then you can take up 30-40% of the company. Because we bought 96.5%, we bought the whole company. Okay, I don't think it didn't make financial sense for me to hold on to the whole company when I can bring in more people to participate in the enterprise. So immediately we paid for Daily Times. I think property is a big issue in Nigeria. I later came to realize. When I bought Daily Times, I was just 35 years old. So for me, I was all about getting in there, turning it around, because when you read the stories of Babatunde Jose, you read the stories of Yemi Ogumbi, they were all in that age bracket when they were doing the marvelous things in Daily Times. So for me, it was inspiration. I was just getting in there. I wanted to go turn it around, make a name for myself, and so on and so forth. No, but the property became a big issue. So these guys came to me and said, well, we don't want to participate in the equity anymore. We want you to sell the properties and give us 40% of that. I said, well, I won't do that. No way on earth I'm going to do that.
So these properties, meaning Ikeja?
The 7 properties.
Okay.
Okay, because what they wanted was a careful distinction between the assets and liabilities of a company. And if you understand transactions, the enterprise value is assets and liability. So they said, okay, keep on the liabilities, bring out the assets, let's sell the assets and divide the assets. I said, no way. Who does that? That's not what I put on my technical bid. Okay? So I have a responsibility. So you have to understand that in those years of controversy, I have to also stick by what I signed in the technical bid. Because the technical bid is not something you can amend. Because that is the basis that you won the bid. So whatever you're trying to do, or whatever pressure that your financial guys are putting on you, or your equity guys are putting on you, there's no way you're going to be able to fall foul of the law. Now, that is the reason why a lot of people say, why haven't BPE come up to say anything? Because we were careful, we made sure that we followed the rule, and at no point in time that we violated any rule as far as the acquisition of Daily Times is concerned. So the challenge of the controversy, or the commercial challenge that we had, the impact it had was not even within the time period that we expected. So the commercial disputes, we were very careful to make sure that at the end of the day, we didn't violate any rule. We followed the rules to the letter, and that's all.
Koniwala, Nuwasuma Waheda.
No, we did. It's not that we spent. It's not that we were all moved to the court and we sat down. We were fighting. No, we are also building the company. You have to understand that Daily Times is a heritage brand. This is a company that is going to be 90 next year, and by the time we got into Daily Times, you had 1,600 staff, most of them redundant. Government sends subvention of 400 million every year just to pay the staff. They were publishing less than 1,000 copies of newspaper a day. So it was already a broken empire. So the issue of cleaning out all the liabilities and so on and so on, because you don't build a company on top of a liability. Okay? Privatization is meant to inject new ideas, new finance, new structures into a company to be able to turn it around. So you have to, there are all phases that you have to build it before you can begin to build up. You don't put something on nothing. So the commercial dispute wasn't actually affecting the work that we were doing at the background. But you see, because it's a media company, you have to, I always tell people in BPE, you've never sold a media company before. This is the first media enterprise that you've privatized. Okay? How do you push other things that you do? It's media.
Koniwala, Nuwasuma Waheda.
No, the courts.
The court said,
Yeah, the court took our position. Okay, first of all, in 2010, because one of the guys that were pushing, one of the guys that we brought in sold his equity to somebody that became a senator. So he used all the, you know how Nigeria works, he used all the pressures of the Senate for everybody to try to make us to buckle, just to get the Daily Times assets. And we said no, we stood our grounds. He even got to a point where he got an order cancelling our shares in the lower court. And we went to appeal court, and appeal court said no, that the lower court didn't do the right thing, that they should go back and do the right thing, you know. But like I said, the court issue wasn't the reason why we are not on the street. We were on the street when we took over Daily Times. We spent hundreds of millions. As you understand, today, the media environment, the media landscape has changed, or is it constantly?
Koniwala, Nuwasuma Waheda.
We took over, like, if you followed the commercial disputes, okay, because of the initial disputes that we're having with these investors, the bank even put us on receivership and took over the enterprise in 2005. I always tell people that.
In 2005?
Yes, they took it over.
The year you bought it?
Yes, the year we bought it, they took it over. So we had to go to court. So the court said, no, you wrongly took it over, get out of it there. So they handed it back over to us in 2006. So we started publication in 2007. We published all through 2007, 2008, 2009. And then at the end of the day, we were able to go back to BPE and say, look, we need to amend this structure because the market has moved. Okay? So we want to, because in BP, in the technical bid, within 5 years, you can't change your business plan. So it was a very structured rule. So after that 5 years rule, we were able to go to BPE, or towards the end of the 5 years, we were able to go to BPE and say, look, we want to change our business outlook. We want to change our business structure the way we presented it, because the market has changed. Everything is moving online. It's digital world. You know, advertising dollars is falling. So there's no point we going to go and invest debt, okay, in buying equipment when we know that the capital cost of those equipment were so high, and then there's no way that we're going to be able to get it back. So BPE approved that restructuring, and then we shut down the publication, and then we started trying to rebuild. 2 years after that, then we launched our online platform, and then in second year, 2 years after that, we launched the online platform. The third year after that, we started the digitalization of our archives, which we felt that was the main platform that we needed to be able to compete in the digital world. So that project has been going on for the past 3 years. It's a very
break it down. What is the digitalization of archives?
The digitalization of archives is carrying the logs and logs and logs of 90-year-old publications over time. Every day. And the publications that Daily Times also acquired. Because at that point, at some point, around 1946, Daily Times was, before 1946, Daily Times was like the national archives of the country. So we had to move all those, treat them, and then begin to scan it page by page by page by page. It's done with industrial scanners. And then you have a bunch of people, maybe 10, 20 people, okay, each with one scanner, and then you're scanning it. Remember that all those books are very delicate because of the time of the year, so you have to treat them. So this is what we have been doing painstakingly. Now, this is what is going to make Daily Times number one. Once that archives is digitized and that archives is launched, automatically you have students of Nigeria, you have Nigerian families abroad that wants to know stuff about Nigeria.
I mean, historians all over.
Okay, many historians all over. Okay, so that automatically is going to give us the eyeballs that we need as a core to rebuild the other things around the Daily Times.
Koniwala, Nuwasuma Waheda.
No, that's not correct. That's not correct. How do you find assets don't hide? Moreover, is what they give you, you take. I mean, for me, the price we paid for BP for Daily Times is a fair price. So I don't have to go looking for any other thing to find. Okay, and I always tell people we bought 100% of Daily Times, 96.5%. The other shareholders were 16,000 shareholders holding a total value of 9-point-something million naira value of shares. So the assets belong to us. So when people say, oh, you found the assets or you sold assets, no, we already bought the assets. It was no more public asset, but we understand the sentiments. Okay, so whatever we did with the assets at that point in time is our business. And then you have to understand that we have a core mandate to rebuild this enterprise, create jobs, make profit for our shareholders, and then affect the society. So the way and manner you do it as a business person varies from Mr. A to Mr. B to Mr. C.
Koniwala, Nuwasuma Waheda.
No. because see, what I tell people is that one, when I was introducing I'm a graphic artist by profession. I don't sell properties. I don't buy properties. So it's.
Well, you bought Daily Times.
Yes, I bought Daily Times as a going concern. Daily Times has assets, has also liabilities. It's not as if Daily Times was never a property company, as far as I can remember. So I couldn't have gone to buy it because of its assets. What about the intellectual property? So what do people tell me? The archives that I'm talking to you, that is going to be the centrality of relaunching the Daily Times platform, in our books was 5 million naira. That was the value on the valuation. But that will turn out to be the most valuable thing that we're going to use to rebuild this enterprise. Now, Daily Times' connection to everybody in Nigeria is well understood. People have so much emotional connection to it. People have died working for it. You know, there's one time that is repeated that Daily Times is like the courier service of the nation. If you want to send a mail to Kano, you have to put it on the Daily Times lorry going to deliver the paper, knowing fully well that your message is going to get to Kano. So we understand that emotional connection. And that was one of the primary reasons why we went to buy this enterprise. Media is a very difficult business. Okay, it's not a profitable business like that. You know, it takes a lot of creativity to make it profitable. So when people say you go to buy assets, I don't buy assets, I don't sell assets. I've been living in Abuja for the past 20 years. I have only one property that I bought with my money. So if I'm a property prospector, I'm sure that living in Abuja, that's what most people do in Abuja. So my interest is to rebuild Daily Times. If people were thinking otherwise before, 10 years after, I'm still there. People have bought enterprises in Nigeria and then in 1 day, 2 days, they sell it, make money, and then move on. That's the way the world is. It's business. The reason why we work is to make money. We don't work. I'm not a social worker. I will never claim to be a social worker. But the point is that I see myself as an impact investor. I'm sort of a social entrepreneur. So whatever I'm doing has to have a clear impact on the society. So I'm not interested in properties. Whatever properties that we sold in Daily Times, we used it to acquire printing assets. The records are there.
Koniwala, Nuwasuma Waheda.
No, the market has changed. You don't need the technology has made it easier. Before you have to have reporters everywhere, but today you have wire services. Okay, you have even citizens journalism working. People can send the news themselves, so you don't need all that. Okay, so and what happens is that when you tell existing staff that you don't need all that because the business has to be profitable, then you are a bad guy. You know, but then you have to make profit for your shareholders.
Have you started? Did you say you're back in good shape?
Yeah, we're back in good shape. Yes, because we finished the first phase. You know,
been back in good shape. Have you just relied on the profit from the assets, or
there's no profit from the asset. There can be any.
Or you have been able to remake the company into a profitable venture?
The company is not profitable yet, and the company cannot be profitable just yet. But the point is that the company is strong enough to release products into the market, try to satisfy the customers, get value for what the product is putting in the market, and then make profit. It's a cycle. So we are in the business, we are now entering the commercial cycle. Okay, before we had cleaning up phase, which took us 2, 3, 5, 4 years. Then you begin to lay the new foundation of the new Daily Times. And you must always think about the context. The context keeps changing. You know, so the context at the time we bought Daily Times and today is a different kettle of fish. And there's some of us that are the major people that are driving this change. We must also take time out to go study about the new media environment, to be able to have the capacity to be able to rebuild this Daily Times, because anything that is short of what Daily Times used to be is a miss. People will still think that you didn't do anything unless you're able to take the word of today, build the solid collaborations with relevant media organizations, and then push back Daily Times to be number one. Then people will applaud you. So that's a lot of work. That's what we've been doing.
Koniwala, Nuwasuma Waheda.
Yeah, Daily Times will do very well because we understand the environment. Okay, some of the key people driving Folio understand the emerging trends in media. As far back as 2007, I did a course in American Press Institute called Newspaper Next. Okay, this is a course that tried to map out the next 20 years of newspapers. Okay, so it also afforded us the opportunity to be able to know where the context is going. So we are keen into that, and like I said to you before, the centrality of our digital strategy is our archives. Okay.
How do people get these archives? Like, you mean what you have in your archives, especially people who miss the time. So
yeah, we are going to launch the archives in 2016.
16.
Yeah, we'll start launching it. Right now.
Is this something that you can log into?
Yes. We log into it. For instance, we're going to partner with Sahara. We're going to partner with major newspaper organizations across the world, okay, to begin to offer that service. Okay, so it's something that you can log in from anywhere in the world, because the archive is also something that should be able to bring the good old memories about Nigeria, because that's the basic ingredient you need to change a society. You have to know that everybody today is dissatisfied the way Nigeria is, but then people want to have a peek about what it used to be. No, the founding fathers of Nigeria, what was their vision about Nigeria? So that's what the archives is going to be able to help a lot of, be it students of Nigeria, be it friends of Nigeria, be it leaders of Nigeria, to be able to reflect as they craft the new roadmap for Nigeria going forward. So I think it's the centrality of I think it's our biggest platform is the archives.
The Times used to be funded by the government. It's known as a government newspaper.
At some point.
Yeah,
It was founded by private individuals. Government took it over because it became very strong.
Koniwala, niwasuma waeda.
Yeah, I think it's about understanding. Okay, I've been around for a long time. Okay, I don't think sometimes publishers want to use publications as a platform for government patronage. Okay, I've been around for a long time. Okay, I always try to say I'm not a businessman, but I'm in business. Okay, I've seen government come and go. Okay, I don't think we will make that mistake, because what we're trying to build an institution. An institution, we're not crusaders. I'm not a crusader. I say it from day one. But I'm a tool that crusaders can use, because I'm going to build an institution. That is the pledge that I have made from the day that I took Daily Times. That's why I have to use my energy to use my contacts, devoid of government patronage. Try to use whatever contacts I can see, whatever energy that I have, to be able to attract the right structure that you need to build an enterprise. There are so many enterprises that people have built without government patronage in Nigeria. There are people that are in Port Harcourt doing oil services. They've never been to Abuja. They are making billions of dollars. So the market is huge. Okay, there are so many things you can do without government, but sometimes everybody just focuses on government. The government is even small. Nigeria is broke. Nigeria doesn't have money. So anybody trying to peddle influence or try to tie their business into this government is not sustainable. What will make you happy as a businessman is to create a sustainable business model, create a sustainable, secured revenue model, and then you're fine. Okay? Once in a while, government is going to come and want to talk to you, but then I'm not an editor. I'm not going to be the one editing the paper. You can ask anybody that works in Daily Times today. Okay? I don't interfere in what does that. My own is to build the enabling environment for people to do their work.
Koniwala, niwasuma waeda.
Okay, I'll tell you. A lot of people, like I said to you, I did a course about Newspaper Next. Okay, the print is not dying. It's just that there are different platforms of consumption of news and content. Okay, and the model that this paper was founded in 1926 is on news. today news is free, but content is not free. It's like talking about Amazon and the hard copy books. If you think about the human nature, you consume with your fingers, with your smell, with eyes, with taste, and so on and so forth, and we hear. So you have to develop products that have multiple platform effects. Addressable market of newspaper today in Nigeria, when you think about think about education level, think about disposable income, and put all the indexes together, is over 24 million newspapers a day. Consumption does not mean that people must pay for it. It means that people are willing to take that product and assimilate the product.
Koniwala, ni wọ́n súnmọ́ wọ ẹ̀dá.
You know why? It's not because the newspaper is dying. It's because the people doing the business are not doing real business. I tell you.
But the people who know how to do the business in this part of the world are also suffering.
No. You know, the people the market is expanding and the competition in this part of the world is fierce. I'll tell you something. If you go to London, last 2 years, the Times of London spent £700 million in implementing new print facility. You understand what I'm trying to say?
That doesn't mean that
no.
It's sound.
No. You're not going to get that kind of finance if it's not valuable. Okay, Financial Times today still their online competes with still the print. The point is that the world has become more competitive. When Daily Times was circulating 800,000, right? The population of Nigeria was less than 100 million. Today, the population of Nigeria has doubled. Okay, you need news analysis. Okay, you need so many other things that the online, on the go kind of platform does not give to you. Okay, you need the touch and feel. You still have a lot of traditional people, but what you can tell me that I will agree with you is that the market is shrinking. So the market is shrinking completely, but then somebody can take that whole market, one person. Yesterday I was watching the TV. Okay,
Yes.
you remember the tape, the little cassette tapes,
Yes.
and there's a company in Missouri that they were just showing that had bought up all the machines of everybody that used to do that stuff. And they had orders and orders and orders, because right now the guys in the studios making music believe that cassette, or what I don't know what it's called here, is more of a better quality when they are listening to it, to be able to use it to create beats. So all of a sudden you find another use for it. So I think that newspaper is not going to die for the next 10-15 years. That's if it dies at all. The only thing is that the other platforms are going to grow and they will compete. But then we are not a newspaper company. I always tell people we are supposed to be a news and content organization. So you use what you have to create what you don't have. So basically, you're also trying to build on other platforms. If you go to New York Times today, okay, New York Times is a print newspaper company. USA Today is a print newspaper company, but their online or digital version is next to none. So you're coming from somewhere, you're pushing into the trend, and then you're monetizing. So that's what we are going to do. We are going to be.
Listening to nice is, are you planning a TV kind of? I mean,
we
audio visual.
yeah, of course. If you don't, you have to evolve or die. Yeah. Okay, if you don't, as a business, you must evolve. You know, people want to see everything. People want to hear everything. So it's all 360 degrees media consumption. Okay, so the point is that we have the knowledge, but we are going to. There's a saying that goes that out of nothing comes nothing. Okay, so from what we have enough platform, name recognition. If you wanted to create a new media company today, okay, the budget you're going to deploy in marketing or brand recognition, I can deploy it in building the infrastructure for the business. So starting out from Daily Times, I save a lot because It's like a relay race. I saved the first lap or second lap, starting out with Daily Times. But then I have to think about what does the consumer want today and which are the market that I want to serve. There's a whole spectrum of markets out there. So that's why. So I think there's still value, just like we are talking about the archives now. So why is there value for archives? It's in the old. But then how you present that archives also is very key.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, so
if you were to put your archives on the streets, probably
nobody will buy it because nobody is there, because you have a challenge with the distribution. But what people have to understand that what the digital has done is that it cuts out a whole bunch of problems. Before, you have to buy 300 vehicles. Okay, you have to deal with the human beings driving it. You have to do this. You have to print by this time. You have to load it. You have to go there. But then, people are all connected. So it's a very interesting and better times to be in the media. Because right now, the consumers are intelligent. The platforms are intelligent. So you can push the content knowing that you're pushing it to people that need it. You don't just have to make, today, as I speak to you today, sometimes you print the newspapers in Nigeria. There's no barcode. It's not even a recognized product. You give it to the vendors. The vendors sell one of it. Tomorrow they return 10. No business can be sustainable like that. So it's not a business. That's why they go cap in hand begging government to subsidize them. And that's why they became government tools over the years. But if you build it as a sustainable business model, you have to think about what does the consumer want. And then you give him what he wants, he will pay for it. And everybody will be fine. So we are well plugged in the modern trends of media business.
Koniwala, ni wasuma waeda.
We are online. If you go to Alexa today, we are 182. And then we were only 182 because 2-3 months ago we had a crash of the site. Okay, so today we are 182. We're doing like 60,000-70,000 page views a day, which I think is a little bit below what we envisaged. But I can tell you that by next year, by middle of next year, when we begin to put snippets of our archives, we'll be doing at least 150,000 to 200,000 page views. By the time we bring in our multimedia platform, by the time it goes live, okay, we'll be able to serve more audience. But basically, for us, the only way we can make money from this is to be able to do what the customers want, to be able to get the eyeballs in. And once the eyeballs come in, we have the capacity to monetize those eyeballs.
Koniwala, ni wasuma waeda.
5 years time, Daily Times will be #1 in Africa.
And you can coach you on that.
Yes, in 5 years we'll be #1 in Africa. We'll be in 5 years, Folio Media Group, which Daily Times is one part of, will be the most trusted, valuable media company in Africa. And that's what we're working for.
That's a tall order.
Yes, we'll get it. We'll get there. We understand what it takes. We've created the financial structure to be able to do that. Because see, one thing you have to understand is that media needs a lot of investment. Okay, so if you clean up the company, you put this right structure in place, find the right protagonists in the business, structure everything properly, you will attract the right kind of finance. I'm not looking to be managing director, CEO, this and that in Daily Times. I'm happy as a founder of Folio Media Group.
That's the most important position.
Yes, the most important position for me is as a founder. Okay, then you attract the right kind of people to come in and help to structure this business, run it so that investors will have the confidence to put their cash there and know that there will be appropriate returns for their cash. Then, you know, because you're a big media player, so you know in Africa, it's open. We've not even done anything in Africa in terms of media. We've not started. So it's up for the taking. But then, how do you consolidate that fragmented market of media in Africa? It's cash. So you need, the race is going to be which of the media companies are well prepared to be able to attract the right kind of investments, to be able to build the structure that will be able to take the market. And I think, without sounding, I think this is what we've been doing for the past 10 years behind the scene. And people call us all sorts of names. You know, you're a thief, you're this, you're that, you're that. You know, but at the end of the day, the race is not for the swift. Okay, it's a marathon race. Okay, I think for some of us, we will have to thank God that we have the platform to rebuild whatever battered image that people have put on us. Because by the time you rebuild this, people will be happy. Nigeria is suffering from the fact, Nigerians are suffering from the fact that the society in general has been broken down. Okay? So what happens is that the believability structure in Nigeria is very, very low. Nigerians don't have patience for anybody. So if I come in on the scene of Daily Times and nobody knows me, they say, who is this person? He must be fronting for someone. He's a thief. He's this, he's that, you know, so on and so forth. But then I don't think it really makes sense to begin to defend all this when you have an opportunity to rebuild the franchise that you've been given. Okay, the country is actually in a very, very delicate state. So people don't believe anything. So we will do it. I always say to people that you must give us the opportunity to succeed or fail. But the failure is not an option for us. Okay, but you have to give us that opportunity. That's why I keep begging for. Since 10 years ago, you know, people have to give us the benefit of the doubt to be able to do this.
Now you have it. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Koniwala, ni wasuma wa eda.